Hello, today I'm going to talk about Carl Jung's 7 Sermons to the Dead. I've been a Jung fan for a long time, probably since I was 26, I guess. And I read several books of his. One I discovered a few years ago was the Red Book, which is almost like an illuminated manuscript, but it's him sorting out his psychological muck, for lack of a better term. And I really identify with this because in the past I've also made art that had the same function. It was often odd and startling and actually can almost scare you a little bit. So I do respect the fact that he dived into this so gung-ho. But I think it's a necessary thing to do if you want to be a better human being, or if you want to transcend this realm. I think you need to know yourself. They always say know thyself, and you need to know the negative parts of yourself as well, which are really deep down, and you have to kind of mine them or bring them up to the surface and sublimate them somehow. And so Carl Jung's 7 Sermons to the Dead is a Gnostic influenced mystical text written in 1916. It is a foundational piece in his exploration of his unconscious mind and represents a key moment in his personal spiritual journey. So he did this in a time of deep psychological turmoil and self-exploration. It's hard to relate what that is like if you haven't gone through it. If you have, then you probably know what I'm getting at here, but if you haven't, it's almost like diving into a kind of bottomless well of these negative is I guess the wrong word, suppressed emotions, different things from your childhood and even different things from other lives, I think, that have not been kind of resolved, and it's very messy. And when you think about our normal life and how ordered our normal life is, if you go into this, what could be called the dark night of the soul, it disrupts your entire life. Everything gets turned upside down. I think it's quite brave of him to document all of this for our benefit. So this happened after his break with Freud, and originally this was privately circulated among his friends and colleagues, but it was later included in the Red Book. It has a high Gnostic influence, and if you've watched any of my other videos, you know that that is something I'm immensely interested in. So he credits this as kind of channeling the work of Basilides, a 2nd century Gnostic teacher from Alexandria. And if you know anything about Philip K. Dick, he had similar experiences. I've also had similar experiences, so I definitely believe him on this. If you don't know anything about Gnosticism, it emphasizes the distinction between the material world, seen as flawed or evil, and a transcendent spiritual reality. You can check out my other videos on it in this playlist. All in all, the things he addresses in this are the spiritual duality and the reconciliation of opposites, the nature of God and the creation of the cosmos, and the nature of the human soul. But it's done in a way where he emphasizes the role of the dead. And what he means by the dead, he doesn't necessarily mean dead people. He means the unconscious forces or spirits that shape our psyche. Now, these could be suppressed emotions. They could be demonic forces, and I don't mean demonic, I mean daemonic, which means parts of your higher self trying to break through in order for you to understand the totality better. They also could be dead aspects of the psyche, unresolved parts of the self. In this, he says that the dead seek guidance from the living, which is the conscious self, to find resolution and meaning, which kind of parallels his theory of individuation, which I see individuation as the dark night of the soul and going through all of the, what they might call the iceberg. You know, the conscious self is up here and there's all the stuff under the water that makes up parts of yourself. But in the book, each part is delivered by an entity named Philemon, who served as Jung's inner guide or spiritual mentor. It's a blend of psychology and mysticism and theology, where Jung kind of does something unorthodox. He is a scientist first, but he's also a mystic. And there are very few of those, in my opinion, because I think those two viewpoints are kind of counterintuitive or at odds with each other. And so in this, he kind of blends the spiritual and psychological domains, and it becomes kind of a metaphysical science versus alchemy, which I find very fascinating. And I don't think the two things should be at odds with each other. In fact, hundreds of years ago, they were not. If you think of all the Renaissance men or women, they were integrating all these things. Leonardo da Vinci, people like that, they kind of believed in a totality, and I think that's something we've lost. These symbols that he grapples with in this book, he eventually passed on to his protege, Mary Louise von Franz, who eventually used them to tackle folklore and to disassemble folklore and the meanings behind it, which I also find very fascinating. All in all, I think this is a very interesting book. I think you can learn a lot if you are A, on a Gnostic path, B, if you're going through the dark night of the soul, C, if you have some kind of unresolved issues you're trying to deal with. I think this could definitely help you. But yeah, I highly recommend this. If you haven't read it, check it out. That's all I got for today. If you want to like and subscribe or pass this on to someone that it might benefit, you can do that. Anyway, take care. Have a good day.